There is a point when you realize nothing is watching what's happening. Not watching to judge, not watching to correct, not even watching to be aware. Experience is simply occurring. This episode is about that point. About what it's like when life is no longer accompanied by a subtle observer standing just outside the moment. Earlier in this journey, awareness often felt like something you were doing. You noticed. You stayed present. You remained conscious of what was happening. That attention mattered. It helped stabilize experience when things felt unfamiliar or intense. But gradually, that sense of watching begins to soften. Not because attention disappears, but because it no longer needs to stand apart. When experience isn't being watched, it doesn't feel unconscious. It feels intimate, direct, unfiltered. This can feel disorienting at first. If you were used to being aware of experience, noticing that awareness is no longer separate may feel like something is missing. But nothing has been lost. What's gone is the distance. Earlier, there may have been a subtle position held. You were here, and experience was there. Even if it felt close, there was still a sense of orientation. Now, that orientation dissolves. There's no center looking outward. There's just happening. When experience isn't being watched, moments don't feel framed. They don't feel highlighted or emphasized. They unfold with a kind of quiet continuity. You may notice that you're no longer noticing yourself noticing. There's no secondary awareness checking in. No reminder to stay present. Presence is simply implicit. This doesn't make experience dull. It makes it complete. Nothing is layered on top of it. Earlier, there may have been moments where awareness felt heightened, clear, bright, distinct. Now, experience doesn't spike. It settles. When experience isn't being watched, thoughts arise differently. They don't interrupt the moment. They don't pull you out. They appear within experience rather than commenting on it. Earlier, thought may have felt like something you observed. Now, it's just another movement. No different from sound, or sensation, or emotion. This changes how thought is related to. You don't need to observe it. You don't need to correct it. You don't need to follow it. It comes and goes without requiring attention. When experience isn't being watched, emotion also feels different. Emotion isn't experienced about something. It's experienced as something. A wave, a shift, a movement. Earlier, emotion may have been tracked, named, located, understood. Now, emotion doesn't need to be identified. It's felt directly and allowed to pass. This doesn't make emotion stronger. It makes it simpler. Without an observer, emotion doesn't linger as narrative. When experience isn't being watched, time feels less segmented. There's no sense of stepping out of moments to see where you are. Moments flow. Earlier, there may have been an awareness of transitions. Before and after, now and next. Now, experience feels more continuous, less interrupted. This doesn't mean time disappears. It means it's no longer being tracked internally. When experience isn't being watched, action happens naturally. You move when movement happens. You speak when speech arises. There's no delay, no internal cue. Earlier, there may have been a moment of observation before action, a check. Now, action flows directly from context. This doesn't make you impulsive. It makes you responsive. Response happens without a mediator. When experience isn't being watched, identity feels less present. Not absent, just not involved. You're not maintaining a sense of self. You're not referencing who you are. You're participating. Earlier, identity may have subtly framed experience. Now, experience doesn't require framing. This can feel freeing. It can also feel unfamiliar, because identity once provided orientation. But what replaces it is immediacy. When experience isn't being watched, there's less commentary, less inner narration. Not because silence is forced, but because nothing is standing apart to comment. You may notice that language feels quieter inside. Words arise when needed. Otherwise, there's space. This stage often brings a sense of ease that doesn't register as emotion. It's not happiness. It's not calm. It's the absence of extra layers. When experience isn't being watched, mistakes feel different. They don't feel personal. They don't trigger review. They're noticed and adjusted for within the flow of life. Earlier, mistakes may have pulled attention inward. Now, they're handled externally without inner disruption. When experience isn't being watched, relationships feel more immediate. You're not monitoring yourself while listening. You're not evaluating your presence. You're simply with the interaction. This often leads to deeper listening, not because you're trying, but because nothing is dividing attention. When experience isn't being watched, silence feels complete. It doesn't need awareness added to it. It doesn't need to be noticed. It just is. This stage doesn't arrive with a signal. There's no moment where you realize, oh, now experience isn't being watched. It's recognized afterward, by how little you're referencing yourself. You may still notice awareness sometimes. Old habits surface, but when they do, they don't re-establish distance. They pass. This isn't a practice. It's not something to maintain. It's what remains when nothing is standing apart anymore. When experience isn't being watched, life doesn't feel unmanaged. It feels whole. You don't need to remember this. You don't need to agree with it. If it resonates, you'll recognize it in your own moments. If it doesn't, nothing is missing. Life doesn't need to be observed in order to be lived, and you don't need to watch yourself to be here. If any of this feels familiar, you don't need to hold on to it. But if you'd like to stay connected, you're welcome to. Liking the video helps it reach others who may be quietly noticing that life no longer needs an observer. And if these reflections support you as experience unfolds without distance, you can subscribe, not to follow a path, but to keep the door open. And if someone you care about has been trying to stay aware of every moment and feels tired from the effort, you're welcome to share this with them. Only if it feels natural. Sometimes the deepest intimacy comes from realizing nothing is standing apart anymore.